Hello everybody, how you doing today? We're here today to do a little bit of a follow-up on the whole Eagle Nation's cycle hostage standoff thing that happened in Neenah, Wisconsin that you may remember me reporting on before. If you don't, obviously, I'll leave the links to the first two videos I did about this situation or this case in the information below the video there. So go ahead and feel free to check those out and come back to this one if you want. So, what we have now is Mr. Flatoff, okay, who is the one who walked into Eagle Nation Cycles that day and started this whole series of events in motion, which ended up in the shooting death of Michael Funk, where he was shot by a Neenah police officer who believed he might have been dangerous because Michael Funk did come out of the motorcycle shop holding a gun. So the officer thought he was dangerous and ended up shooting him. So that's kind of what happened in this case. Now, what's the reason why this video is coming out is because Michael Flatoff has now stood trial. He has been found guilty, and I mean, it's an interesting kind of situation what he did here. He went pro se at first. The trial only took a week. You'll see here in a second. Trial only took about a week. He went pro se at first, but then the final day he decided to have an attorney appointed, and that attorney basically attempted to make a motion for a mistrial, which the judge denied, and then that attorney essentially made his closing argument. And so he was found guilty. The jury came back and found him guilty on 14 counts, all of which you'll see here in this video. I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, I mean, and that's where this ends. You know, basically the responsibility for Michael Funk's death falls solely on this Mr. Flatoff, who decided to go to Eagle Nation Cycles that day and start taking hostages, which ended up in this unfortunate series of events. So we'll move in now to the article, and you can see some of what I've been telling you, and then we'll move into a video clip of some of the trial there, basically the main part of the closing arguments, and then we'll come on back. Winnebago County, Wisconsin. A jury found Brian Flatoff guilty of all charges related to a deadly motorcycle shop hostage situation and standoff in Neenah. On Friday evening, the jury came back with a verdict finding Flatoff responsible for all 14 counts related to the events at Eagle Nation Cycles in Neenah. The charges included felony murder for the death of hostage Michael Funk and 2 counts of attempted homicide for shooting at Neenah police officers Craig Hoffer and Jonathan Cuffle. You'll remember Craig Hoffer from the second video I did. He's the cop that's about ready to dance a jig, even though he knows he shot the wrong guy. So that fills me with concern, but we'll move on. Flatoff was also convicted of conspiracy to kill his friend Vance Dalton. Flatoff represented himself for much of the trial, which started on Monday, but the trial was scheduled for 3 weeks, but both sides wrapped up their case after a week. On Thursday, Flatoff asked the judge if he could have an attorney represent him for the remainder of the trial, and Judge John Jurgensen agreed and appointed a stand to take over the case. Slagi asked for a mistrial, but the judge denied that motion. On Friday, both sides delivered closing arguments before handing the case over to the jury, which we will see a little bit of now.
Those 14 counts that Flatoff was convicted of were in connection with the death of hostage Michael Funk, who was shot and killed by police after he tried to escape the cycle shop during that shootout. Prosecutors charged Flatoff for being responsible for Funk's death because of the incidents he set in motion that day. Up until yesterday, Flatoff had been defending himself before asking the judge to appoint a defense attorney. Here's a sample of what was said during closing arguments this afternoon.
You heard numerous statements from the defendant himself regarding his desire to kill Vance Dalton. The statements he made to Agent Carroll after he was taken into custody, how he wanted to kill him, cut his throat, fillet him. Over and over again, he wanted to kill Vance Dalton.
Brian came to Eagle Nation armed. He made threats, he brandished his firearm, and that is not acceptable behavior. It's likely a crime, or several crimes. But it does not constitute the forming of an agreement or the joining of purposes to commit a crime as required by the law of conspiracy.
Either way, with this verdict, Flatoff faces a probable life sentence either in prison or a mental institution because he was found guilty. The second phase of this trial now starts on Monday when a jury will decide whether he was mentally competent at the time of this incident.
All I can say is after the huge train wreck that this guy caused, he better not get leniency because of some kind of mental disability or whatever. No. The guy needs to be put away. He needs to be taken away so that he can't do this kind of crap again and get other innocent people killed. Okay? Sorry, he's not one of those harmless crazies. He's one of those harmful crazies, and he needs to be put somewhere where he cannot harm others, which seems now, at least at this point in his life, that he is now at the point where he can't seem to function without doing that, because what he did at Eagle Nation Cycles that day is absolutely reprehensible. So, obviously, I'm going to talk a little bit about my second point here, and that is Mr. Hoffer, the Officer Hoffer. Okay, look, people, this guy does bother me. I'm not going to lie about it. I do understand that he shot Michael Funk. Seeing a gun in his hand, being confused about what was going on, those things I can go, yeah, okay, right, I get it. It's a, split second type of thing. You're trying to decide what to do. The guy's come out of a, that shop and he's got a gun in his hand. Okay, I get it. The dilemma was significant. I get that. What I don't get, and if some of you who will see, the second video I did on this was footage from a body cam where you can see this Officer Hoffer has no remorse. He knows that the person that he shot was the wrong person, that it was one of the hostages. He has no remorse about it. He's actually happy about it. He looks like he's about to dance a freaking jig. Okay, that's how sad it is. And that bothers me. Not his decision, but his attitude upon finding out that accidentally, but still, even accidentally or not, that the wrong person had been killed, and he still looks like he's about to dance a jig. Yeah. So that's what bothers me about Officer Hoffer, and it's never going to stop bothering me about him, because that just rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, we're talking about the taking of human life here, and he's acting like it's a video game. Like he just got the high score or something. I don't know. Anyway, seriously bothers me. But anyway, so we're going to move in now to the final part of the last little part of the article here, where it shows all the charges, basically the 14 charges that Flatoff has been found guilty of, and what they pertain to and sort of thing. So we'll move into that now. The second phase of the trial will start on Monday. The jury will have to determine if Flatoff was mentally fit to commit the crimes. In January, Flatoff entered pleas of not guilty by mental disease or defect. Here are a list of the charges and the verdict. Possession of firearm, convicted of a felony, guilty. Attempted first-degree intentional homicide, Officer Hoffer, Mr. Jigman, guilty. Attempted first-degree intentional homicide of Officer Cuffle, guilty. Conspiracy to commit first-degree intentional homicide of Vance Dalton, guilty. Taking hostages, release without bodily harm, hostage Ryan Moderson, guilty. False imprisonment, hostage Michael Peterson, guilty. Felony murder, hostage Michael Funk, guilty. Fail to comply with officer of person in custody, guilty. Bail jumping felony, guilty, and they showed bail jumping 6 times there. So this guy's looking at a lot of charges and a lot of time, and that's the way it needs to be, because this guy is clearly a danger. He's clearly a danger to himself and others, and he needs to be somewhere where he can be handled. So that's about it for the current update on the Michael Flatoff, Eagle Nation Cycles, Michael Funk situation. Obviously, I'll probably do one more update when we find out how the sentencing went. So, anyways, as I said before, my previous 2 videos about this subject will be in the information below the video, so have a look. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.